have 3 minutes for your opening statement. Timer starts now.
Mr. Chairman. Okay. Same-sex couples should be allowed to adopt children. Human rights must be respected. Homosexual people are individuals. They have same rights we do. They can be responsible, loving, and good parents. According to the research that was done by American study on 2011, over 55% of the time, homosexual parents are better in taking care of their children and supporting them financially than the heterosexual parents. People think many false things about homosexual people. Nowadays, the world changed. We must become more open-minded and we must think more positively on this topic. We must think of the benefit of homosexual people adopting children first, not only what is bad. First of all, homosexual couples, they choose to have kids, and this indirectly implies their sense of huge responsibility carried with love for kids. Straight couples ought to frankly have oops babies. According to the God-Nature Institute, about half of U.S. pregnancies are unplanned, and about half of those unplanned pregnancies and births rather than abortion. Parents of unplanned babies can do a great job, of course, but some are in dire circumstances. 2/3 of unplanned births in 2006 were paid for by Medicaid or other low-income insurance programs, according to God-Nature. And second of all, by nurturing the newest LGBT parents before homosexual parents fostered the tolerance of adoption problem that occurs in our society. Their upbringing can teach the kids open minds and empathy toward society. And for the last, unlike the worries in our society, adopted children by homosexual couple adjust to the society just finally. Therefore, adoption by same-sex couples should be supported in our society. Thank you.
All right. So you have 2 minutes for questions and clarifications.
Can you repeat the second?
Second reason is when the baby going to adopted parents and those same-sex people want to get a baby, so the baby will gonna be happier than just regular adoption parents. So the parents foster the tolerance of adoption problem.
What do you mean then regular adoptive parent? Adoption by parent?
To explain all of our reasons, first one was that the homosexual couples choose to have babies. They choose to have kids. And the second one is that because they nurture the neediest and foster the tolerance, they can probably be the resolution of adoption problem. And the third one is that like all other guys says, or other research says that an adopted child into a homosexual parents can cause a lot of problems, both mentally and physically. But according to the research that we have found, that they have adjusted the society just fine.
Any more questions? Thank you.
All right. So, Conti, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement. Timer starts now.
First of all, we are not arguing same-sex marriage and their adoption are morally wrong. My teammates and I fully support the right for marriage of LGBT people, but today we are trying to focus on reality we are facing every day for the next generation who deserve fine environment. First one, legal support from government and society can provide high quality of protection to children, and it is essential while growing up. Same-sex couples are also recognized as married couple when they get proved by their society in marriage legally. For example, unless they are married, one of the couple cannot sign the surgery consent because they are not regarded as legal representatives. But in reality, there are only 21 countries who legally support same-sex marriage. 76 out of 196 countries in the world legally ban same-sex marriage. So same-sex parents adoption is currently legal in only 14 countries in the world. So that being said, same-sex parents adoption is prohibited by the majority of countries throughout the world. The overall sentiment of the process is that gay adoption is not desirable. The second reason is LGBT people make choice to be homosexual people or not to hide their identity anymore. We fully respect that. But how about the children? How about the right of the children? They didn't decide to be the kids of the parents who is LGBT people. They're gonna face a tremendous discrimination and stereotype all their life. So no matter how much they love their kids, children feel the loss keenly because they are powerless to stop the decision to deprive them of father or mother. And the richest and the most successful same-sex couples still cannot provide a child, a mom, or dad. And we believe it's the right of the child. Having a mom and dad is a previous value in its own right and not something can be underestimated. Male and female are different biologically, physically, and emotionally. That's fact. But genders play an important role in a child's development. The roles are becoming increasingly confused and inconsistent. It's a right of the child to have a mom and dad.
You have 2 minutes for questions and clarifications.
Can you simply clarify your statements, three statements that you have stated?
So the first one is, we think our society is not ready because one of the reasons is if you see the legal system of many countries, there are only a few countries who actually legally support the same-sex marriage. That means our culture is not ready to accept the difference, not yet. So we're not talking about it tomorrow will be wrong or not. And the second reason is it's what about the rights of the kids? Every kids have to be educated and happy with their kids' life. But when they have LGBT parents, it's true that everyone is gonna have some stereotype and discrimination, and it will suffer. They have to suffer from that about a life for a long time. And they're gonna have some identity crisis of children because they need mother and father for right education to be exposed about
If the kid is raised in an environment where their parents are both same sex, then they will sooner or later face an identity crisis where their friends have a mother and a father, but why don't they? This will lead to stress and it will build up and it will eventually lead to something worse.
Okay, that's it.
So, pro team, you have 8 minutes for rebuttals and questions. So your 8 minutes starts now.
Your second statement of right of kids, you said that the kids will not be educated and they probably won't be happy.
no,
Probably.
not educated, like not have a possibility of fine education. Not economic. We're not talking about economically education program. We're just talking about another point of view. The kid will gonna need a point of mom and a point of dad, but if they have same-sex couples, then they're gonna have problems with another point of view.
Because if a female, both same-sex couple adopt a male child, but they're biologically different. So what if the kid grows up and soon finds out, why am I different than my mother's, my parents? This will also lead to stress, which will
Isn't that
build
just
up.
same as heterosexual adoption? Isn't that just same?
Well,
Why
in
not just-
hetero, if you have a mother and a father, then you have both perspectives of this gender.
Yeah.
And the child, if he or she has a problem in their life, then they will be able to ask their parents, what's wrong? But in the case of a same-sex couple, they don't have that kind of option.
Oh, so you're talking about the option, like asking your mom and dad.
Yes, if you have a personal problem where you can't share with your friends.
Okay, so the education that you have supported, that in your statement, is that that's just limited in the house. We can see a lot of gender roles outside the house, including schools, including just across the roads. We can just see the gender roles there.
We are talking about a relative point of view. So just make a compare of the same-sex couples education, and their view can be lopsided for the kids. And you said that they can learn from something else from the outside, but as you know, the kids who are under preschool or all they got is the parents' word. The parents are their words. All they learn is from basically parents' view and parents' perspective. And yeah.
As we supported in our opening statement, half of the U.S. American parents have oops babies, as we call, and it's becoming a social problem, such as abortion, things like that. And on the other hand, heterosexual couples, a 2007 report by the Urban Institute found that more than half of gay men and 41% of lesbian in the United States would like to adopt. That's a huge number of potential parents, far dwarfing the more than 100,000 adoptable kids stuck in foster care today. So if you're talking about the foster care, well, I think it's related with this topic about the foster care system and the same-sex couples, marriage, and those kind of things. This is becoming a huge social problem, and by adopting from the foster care system, we can reduce those kind of social problems that occurs in our society, and hence, you said right of the kids, but in this study, more than 60% of gay men and the lesbian, they adopt a kid more than 3 years old. So more than 3 years old, according to the statistic, it's much more tougher to be adopted by the normal parents that we call. So don't you think this helps out the society better?
Is that a battery?
So you mean it helps to reduce the babies who doesn't have any home, right?
What?
It means adoption by same-sex couples can provide from homes and education and better lead to the oops baby, right?
Yes, because they chose to be a parents, unlike those oops
Do you know
babies.
how many populations are LGBT people?
LGBT?
Yeah. How many population in the world?
How many population?
Population, how many percentage of the people are LGBT?
Wait a second. Okay. It says here that approximately 8 million adults in the U.S. are LGBT, which is nearly 3.35% of the U.S. populations.
It's bad.
What about not supposed to talk about the word LGBT here because I'm not a statistic and I don't have.
It's only a small portion of the world we're talking about.
So you're talking about the minorities.
No, the majority of the world is, we don't know how many percentage there are in the world who are LGBTs. You're only talking about a small portion. And how are you so sure that the surveys done in the U.S. are mostly the population in the U.S.?
Well, I can't be assured by that statistics, but we are probably be sure that the study that is done in the U.S. is done fairly and trustably. That's why we use this statistic as a reference.
So actually, our reference is that the LGBT people in the world is about 5% people, 25%. And I don't know how many people are going to have baby, and I don't know how many people are going to have, how many people can continue their marriage life and their adoption baby. And I don't see it can be the layout of the group's baby. I don't see it's very true.
And we found out that the proportion of same-sex couples raising children has begun to actually decline. In census in 2000, more than 17% of same-sex couples were raising children. But it peaked only a little to 19% in 2006 and has declined again to 16% in 2000.
So
we're saying in numbers, the census reported that 63,000 couples were raising children, but today the figure is now only more than 110,000.
of LGBT raising kids.
And you actually mentioned America, right? Maybe the statistics can be high because it's America. We're not talking about America. We're just talking about the.
All right. So you also have 8 minutes. 8 minutes starts now.
So I'll have to. Yes. I was trying to say the 35% of what you mentioned is can be highly recognized in America. As you see, U.S. is more open-minded than other majority of the countries. So it can be wrong to others in this society or their society. And I want to ask you about you mentioned that 55% of the research that the kids of the same-sex parents that are better at studies, right?
Yeah,
Right.
better in taking of their children.
Yes. But as you mentioned, the example of the same-sex marriage, parents who have kids, it's very small. So sample size is so small. So if they do a little better, then it can be exaggerated in the number.
Well, we
Another
agree
thought
that
on
we agree that we can't just compare this number into a whole majority of the people that you're offering here. But what I wanted to emphasize was that this amount of number infers that these homosexual couples are ready financially and mentally to have kids, unlike the other parents that has babies accidentally. That's what I wanted to imply here.
We're not taught how can the achievement of the education can be the standard of have good family or not?
Oh yeah, that's why I agreed that I can't just compare this number into the whole idea. What I wanted to emphasize was my idea that homosexual parents are ready for this, that they're ready for their job, and they're ready to devote themselves into the kids, giving them love.
So, but what about the stereotype and discrimination they're going to face? Like, I'm a woman. Woman is a half of the population, but I face discrimination and stereotype every single day. But I can't imagine how many people with same-sex couple parents are going to face their entire life.
We understand that they can and possibly can face the discrimination from the society. But according to the study, children and adolescents raised by gay and lesbian parents are not more teased than children and adolescents of heterosexual parents. It says that the studies that have explored this in more detail show that while children with gay or lesbian parents are more likely to be teased about their family configuration, they aren't more likely to be teased in general. Children tease one another for a variety of reasons. Children get teased because their ethnic group is different, because they have curly hair, because they are fat, because they have a funny accent. Children can be very cruel to one another. It's just children.
You keep mentioning about statistics, but how many
I
homosexuals
don't
do you
mention any
know?
statistics here.
You keep saying studies, statistics, what we found, but how many homosexuals do you actually know in your life?
In my life,
Yeah.
Yes.
well,
You and your partner.
We were just trying to be
Yes.
more imaginable.
You personally know cases where the kid had a happy life with a homosexual parent.
well, in my experience, I studied in the U.S. for over 10 years.
Okay.
Okay,
Same thing.
then what about the other partner who doesn't have any experience of studying in the U.S.? Or what?
He has experience, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Apologize.
Okay, so I don't have any experience learning anything in abroad. I spent entire life in Seoul, and I have never seen anyone who have parents with same-sex couple. And I believe most of my friends who lives in Korea, only so-called Korean.
So you want to say that the sexuality of parents is really effect on children? Or
No, I'm
children's
trying to
life?
say they're a minority, and our society, they're not morally wrong. They have right to have marriage. But we're trying to say the society is not ready yet.
As you said, they have a right to marry, and they have a right to adopt.
But
The flow
you
goes
said,
like
you
that.
said that you do know homosexuals in real life. But do you really want to leave a life, a child,
As
to
their child.
to their child, but you don't know what the results will be like. Maybe they will be bullied. How do you really want to leave that kind of future to a child?
Well, I don't know. I can probably say because I have both parents, mother and father. But as a third person perspective, facing this topic, I believe that it's much better to stay in a house with a family, even although it's same-sex couples. It's better than staying in an orphanage or foster care system.
The thing is, they didn't choose it. LGBT people they choose to be LGBT people. They can say I'm lesbian, I'm gay, but what about the kid? They didn't want it. They just happened to be in there. And you said that every LGBT people have same economic background when they're gonna have kids, but how many people can continue with their marriage life? It doesn't matter with the economy.
You're like a homosexual couple's marriage in life.
Yeah, just marriage and life.
Isn't that same with the heterosexual couples?
Yeah, but they have all the discrimination from the society, and they most of the country they are not supported legally, so they are actually just the neighborhood in the documents. So they cannot sign for their partner's operation in the hospital. They can't because they are not partner.
You keep saying that most of the countries are not legalized to have same-sex marriage and same-sex marriage adoption. But it says that excluding Italy, almost all of the countries in Europe legalized same-sex marriage, and except Italy, they only the Italy said no to same-sex couples adoption.
As the documents, as the just only 21 countries are legally support same-sex marriage out of 196, including U.S.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's still not.
Okay, in 2012, 18 out of 52 states have recognized laws that allow same-sex couples to adopt. And this implies that almost all of the U.S. states.
All right, both teams now have 1 minute to prepare for their closing statements. Your minute starts now.
Service.
All right, minutes up. You have 1 minute for your closing statement.
As a conclusion, we do not support the adoption of same-sex couples. Personally, in our society, same-sex couples are not legally approved as married couples, so as a result, their children cannot be legally supported by the government. Unless the parents are mother and a father, the child will never have support in any form, including financial. And secondly, the children will come to face identity crisis while growing up, because their parents are of the same sex. They did not choose to have homosexual parents, and they were not born to them. Then this will lead to the rights of the child. There are some situations where the female and female parents cannot provide relief for their child, and the same vice versa. And this will build up stress and then more stress, leading up to the decrease of the child's welfare. Because of all these reasons, we believe that adoption of same-sex couples should not be supported.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. Now 1 minute for your closing statement. Timer starts now.
Okay. Who limited the scope and who can? Should we really judge people by their sexual preferences and limit their freedom and their rights as a human? After all, sexual orientation defines the personality of a human being no more than does the skin color. These are just characteristics of a person, and hence not an accurate measure of how good or bad someone is. Therefore, we can't just discriminate same-sex couples for their will to adopt kids. According to your opinion and in the statement, I partly agree with the fact that they could be discriminated and they can have a mentally ill, but still, minorities has to have their rights. Therefore, I believe that some privileges should be reserved for homosexual couples. Thank you.
All right, thank you, both groups. Please give them. All right. So, Protein, your opening statement, please. You have 3 minutes.
Many people go to the court to change society to accept euthanasia. This shows that it's very desperate for some people and that it is unavoidable issue. In our country, we are currently banning both active and passive euthanasia. We have system called hospice that's quite similar to passive euthanasia, such as Grandma Kim's incident. But it's not socially accepted yet. We insist that we should establish life ethic committee to enforce compulsive, voluntary, and involuntary euthanasia to diffuse social angst and chaos. We support euthanasia upon several reasons. First, banning euthanasia invades patients' human rights critically. This includes right to select death with dignity and right to be free from the pain. If one forces patient to have severe pain, not considering patient's opinion, it cannot be called as good side of respecting human rights, but on evil side. Second, banning euthanasia intensifies conflict between doctor, patient, and guardian. General anti-cancer drug injection costs 2 million won. If one gets chemotherapy for 1 year, it would be tremendous amount of medical fee. It's not a burden that a normal family can easily hold on. Last, we need to maintain equity of medical benefit for the indiscriminating treatment. Our country has not much doctors since one doctor has to deal with 46 critical patients according to Ministry of Health and Welfare. When we have this kind of hardship and not cure people in real need, to treat people who refuses to be cured, it can be called as obvious discrimination and also a severe insult to human's right of life. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your opening statement. Do you have any questions? You have 2 minutes for questions and clarifications.
Can you just simply summarize what you mean by example of grandma king? Excuse me?
Maybe open in the beginning you said
At the intro.
in the intro you talked about Grandma Kim incident.
Grandma Kim incident. It's the incident that Grandma Kim was on the state of the vegetative state for about 700 days, and the family decided to let her go and remove the, yes.
Maybe for the third argument, you said? Maybe you could just simplify it. It will be very great if you can just repeat examples and numbers.
Excuse me, you have to speak up.
So please restate your third argument, and maybe it will be great if you can just repeat the numbers and examples you have given to us.
We need to maintain equity of medical benefit for the indiscriminating treatment. Our country has not much doctor, since one doctor has to deal with 46 critical patients.
Okay, that will be enough.
Right. On team, you have 3 minutes for your opening statement. I will start now.
Okay. Before explaining our argument, we'd like to ask all of you, is euthanasia truly for patients, human beings? Hippocratic oath, which is an oath that requires a new physician to swear to uphold specific ethical standards, mainly states, do no harm. So today we are here to let you know that we should never let euthanasia to be legal for humans to live fully and truly as human beings. Euthanasia should not be supported because, first of all, if euthanasia is permitted, there will be numerous cases of abuses of euthanasia. Actually, even the word abuse cannot contain every possible bad use. For a simple example, since euthanasia is permitted, burden for choosing euthanasia will be much more relieved, which means that doctors will relatively easily choose euthanasia, even though there can be alternatives for their patients. In our perspective, those people who cannot afford a tremendous amount of money for medical care for life prolongation will also be very vulnerable to temptation of euthanasia, and this situation will finally push them toward euthanasia. Just for your information, according to CNN, deaths for families of terminally ill patients cost an estimated $39,000 at the end of their life for just one patient, which pushes them toward euthanasia. Secondly, we should understand the fact that patients' choice of euthanasia can never be a rational choice. People might say that we need to respect patients' choice and their rights to die, which does not officially exist, because they made their best rational choice under the medical evidence. However, let's just put yourself in their shoes. Knowing that they're going to die, psychological panic, and maybe suffering from stress and fear, can we think such decision made under such worse circumstances is really irrational? Not at all. So, we need to keep patients away from euthanasia and protect them with legal guidelines in order to help patients. If we just let them to make mistake that can never have turning back, that will not only hurt themselves, but also other people, families, friends, all those people who love them, making them to be sad and regret for such a long time. Lastly, euthanasia can never be justified under the name of humanism. The word euthanasia is actually from Latin, which means good death. But is there any good death? And is euthanasia really good death? We believe euthanasia is only justification of our action, sleepless legalized murder under the confidence and arrogance from this dependency upon our scientific development. That belief in science, such simple words and numbers called scientism, has led us to insensibility to real meaning of death. Since when did the death become a possible decision of one's life, and how come the science decide ourselves to choose that? We should think about the real meaning of death and how important it is to find great meaning in our lives. Thank you.
Great. 2 minutes for questions.
So for the first statement, do you mean that doctors will easily give up on the treatment of the patient if the euthanasia get legally accepted?
So I said relatively easy to choose, because by letting this euthanasia to be legal, it means that we have a choice to do so. If we don't just permit this euthanasia, then there's no option, so they won't try to euthanasia.
Thank you. We're done.
Very good. All right. So pro team, you have 8 minutes for bullets and questions. Your timer starts now.
About your first statement, misuse of euthanasia. Do you know there is actually a standard for euthanasia made by Judgment Department of Korea?
Excuse me?
There is a standard of euthanasia made by Judgment Department of Korea.
So what do you mean by standard of euthanasia?
It means qualification.
Qualification. How much they're sick?
Certain diseases that cannot be cured, or there's no hope, or they're too severely pain that
So you're saying about the definition of euthanasia, right?
yes.
So, yeah, we know about the definition of euthanasia.
What you said about misuse of euthanasia.
Yes.
Actually, on the recent trial, the Justice Department suggested these qualifications for euthanasia. When the patient must have no possibility of revival and their own decision, they have to make their own decision in serious and rational mood. And when it's a temporary impulse, they don't allow euthanasia, and there are these standards which prevents misuse of euthanasia.
Yeah. What we mean by misuse of euthanasia, we don't include we actually do include this decision of the patients. But what we are really trying to say by misuse of euthanasia is as I said at the opening statement, doctors trying to push them toward euthanasia, although there's alternatives, maybe a little bit hard, maybe a little bit more expensive for hospital to take care of those patients. That kind of things can be called misuse, and also
There are some families that we do not know what exactly is going on in their family, and some families will try to, I don't know, maybe there's some situations that we don't know that some of the family members want the person to die for the money issues and everything. And it's very personal, that matter. And how will the law be able to know whether it's for their own good or it's for the person's, for the real purpose of euthanasia?
But euthanasia cannot be executed whenever the guardian wants or patient wants. There must be the reason for their body, so we can actually look at that.
So we know we're not, okay, of course, we know about the Netherlands, the country that has legalized euthanasia already, and that we saw that process is very complicated, for the doctor has to have examined the patient for a long time, and the patient has to demand euthanasia for several times to be allowed. But we're not talking about the patient that is deciding euthanasia for oneself. We're talking about the environments that can misuse euthanasia. So even if the patient, well,
It's a critical condition.
sorry?
Please, we can hear now. You mean even though patient is in critical condition, it can be misused by the guardians?
By repeating again, you're saying like it's used by other people.
Yeah,
and
other
patients.
people,
Yep.
guardians.
Yeah, maybe guardians, because it will be really great if all families are really happy and all those family relationships are really great. But as you know, all those families are not that happy, just like us. Maybe we are all happy, but there are some families that has trouble between them, and maybe there are cases. Actually, there are cases in Korea, actually, that like one people became unconscious, so he or she has no right to decide whether to choose euthanasia or not. But as you said, those guardians are people who choose euthanasia, and by choosing euthanasia, some people might have benefit from choosing euthanasia in Korea. That is the case. That was actually crime in Korea. Insurance things, yeah. That's the way. That's why we're saying misuse in our argument.
Okay, about your second statement, you said euthanasia cannot be a rational choice, but how can you decide? How can you say it's not rational when the patient is feeling tremendous amount of pain?
Oh, we try to put ourselves in the shoes of those who are facing, who knows the fact that the death is just around the corner. And we thought that deciding death, euthanasia is deciding to die or not. Some people will be very extremely emotional, and to reverse, how can we know whether they're conscious of what they're doing, whether they're clearly aware of what they're doing?
Just to add, as I said, second argument, people who are at the risk of dying, as we said, they are the ones who choose or not to choose euthanasia. In those worst circumstances, too much money spent, and their life is like at the end of their life. They are at the end of their life, and as you said, they might suffer very much from the pain. So, is that possible? Maybe for just a few of them, but we think that majority of patients who suffer that much pain and that much stress from dying will not be in a very rational status. So it will lead to a non-rational choice. That's our argument.
It might be the non-rational choice in some cases, but they are actually feeling real pain, and the donor-in-law, the professor, which is Canadian, he was very influential and SARS, the disease that was very famous in China, and he got the brain disease, and he said if someone is in my body for 24 hours, they won't know the pain, and he really wanted to be died because it's like the pain.
Alright. Oh, sure, just quickly, is that okay? To just,
I brought the
Another
paper
just
for next
right
subject.
there. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
bless you.
Thank you very much for your excuse.
Alright, your 8 minutes starts now.
You have talked about that everyone has right to die, right? Everyone has their own decision to choose the euthanasia. But about the principle of law, we would like to talk about that. Regulations and law exist to protect human. And as we said about the choice can never be rational, the euthanasia can be led to be a serious mistake with no turning back. And that's not protecting human, which is like you said, the principle of the law. Wouldn't it be off the principle that like right to die is not part of human right right to die is not part of human right according to the law. What do you think of this?
But I guess the human has the right to be freed from the tremendous pain. You know, the acid is a mess.
Human might have the freedom to be free from pain, freedom to be free from pain. But is euthanasia the only way of being free from pain?
What else do we have? The cure, the
Vaccine.
vaccine that can be cured them from the disease, but it will
Okay,
take
okay.
a long time.
I understand what you mean, but what we want to say is there's a lot of type of euthanasia, and we also know that there is some kind of very small action taken, like passive euthanasia, which says that we do not shorten the life of people, and we do not actively cure these people, which means that we don't spend that much money and just giving them anesthesia so that they cannot feel pain from disease or something that they suffer. So, what do you think about that?
That's just the one kind of euthanasia. That is called passive euthanasia. So that's kind of euthanasia too.
You talked about that they're feeling a tremendous pain, right? And there's no other way than to die. Then, there's so many people that commit suicide, right? But it is a very controversial issue, and everyone looks at it's an issue that's frowned upon society. But we do not know what they've been through, or the mental or physical pain they've gone through. But why do we frown upon suicide?
To answer more clearly about your opinion about passive euthanasia,
What we asked before is not
yeah, you are talking about the hospice system, right?
Now? No, we were talking about
Before.
Excuse me? What did you say?
Please answer their question now.
Yeah, what we asked is her question.
Yes.
from the definition, it said like, people who have choice for the euthanasia are people who are like sentenced. That's right. Because of disease or maybe. But why don't we think about the mistake the doctors can make? Just like sentencing death. The diagnosis might be wrong. The patient is not suffering from terminal illness, and the prognosis is wrong. The patient will not die quickly. What do you think about the mistakes that doctors can commit? But we all say euthanasia is for the people who are diagnosed that they're going to die quickly, or maybe if they have terminal illness.
Or do you think giving medical treatment to people who have low possibility to be cured can justify not giving cure to people who have actually high possibility of being cured?
That's our topic, out of our question. What we said is, what do you think about the mistakes that doctors can commit? It's not about like, giving cure to someone and not someone. It's about mistakes that doctors can commit. And that mistakes are very crucial for the patient's life. But because euthanasia means death, and that has no turning back at any rate.
Or euthanasia means that the patient actually wants death. So I think
The reason why a patient wants euthanasia is because the doctor said that they are going to die quickly, or maybe you have terminal illness that you can't be cured. So you are going to die at some time, regardless of the cure. So that must be the reason why people try to choose euthanasia. We say that process itself might be wrong. And what do you think about that?
But to do the euthanasia, there are not only one doctor just judging that this patient needs euthanasia. There are many processes. So I don't really think just one misjudgment of the doctor will cause the misleading euthanasia.
The process that you're talking about here is the process whether we should allow a euthanasia or not. But what we're talking about is that diagnosing a patient that the person has a terminal illness, which cannot be clear because when we go to different hospitals with one symptom, they all give different answers. What does this mean? Doctors themselves are not 100% sure of what they're saying or what they're treating. So can we move on to the next question?
okay.
The scientist has developed since a long time ago, and it has affected a lot in our lives. But the issue of scientism is very controversial these days. And do you think it's okay to give science the ability to kill human beings when science is actually made to help humans?
Because we're like just to go on. We also want you to know that euthanasia can actually increase in countries that have legalized. So, just for example, that we talked about Netherlands, and there was research in 2011, and an increase of 18% in euthanasia happened, and another 13% increase in 2012. Moreover, according to the Lancet, 23% of cases of euthanasia are not actually reported. So, even though it is legalized, there are.
Okay. Thanks, teams. You now have 1 minute to prepare for your closing statements. Your minute starts now. this up. My con team, closing statement.
Let us repeat what we said at the opening statement. Is euthanasia a really good death? And is it a natural way? Can we actually choose to die? Nowadays, because of our expectation of longer span of life, we became too much repulsive to illness and death. However, we should recognize and admit that illness and death is never an ugly truth, and it is just a part of human beings in such a natural situation. If that's so, don't we deserve somewhat much more meaningful life and even death, or to appreciate our values and impressions of our lives? Let us finish with a quote that can be fully applicable to this situation. From Sophocles, the Greek author, my wasteful today is the tomorrow those losers are begging for. Please never let patients to waste their today through euthanasia, justified murder under the name of humanity. Thank you.
All right. Protein, your closing statement, please. You have one.
We are living in a liberal democratic country. Everyone has selections. Everyone has rights to do what they want to do, and death cannot be the exception. Even though death is a very important thing, and it's the biggest thing we can have in our life. But having the biggest selection of the life, I think that is very important. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your efforts, both teams.